All right, it is great to be back with you. We hope that you have been enjoying the uptick in content in the last couple of weeks. Hopefully we can keep that up. It's a little bit challenging to come up with new ideas and to try to be creative, but we'll try to do the best that we can. Today we would like to talk about how learning guitar and even teaching guitar has changed over the last couple of decades, whether that be good or bad, I guess for every individual to decide. But certainly, I guess it's obvious that things have changed when it comes to learning. Let's just reflect a little bit back. If you're like me and I'm 55, I'll soon be 56. It's changed radically. When I was learning guitar, you just hope that you ran into somebody that knew something and maybe a root fifth chord, and someone taught me early on how to play like Wild Thing and Purple Haze and kind of a version of Foxy Lady. I'm not sure how close it was. It might have been close. And that's about all you know. And then maybe you stumble upon someone else who is a little bit more advanced, can get around the blues scale a little bit better, a little bit more dynamic as far as their chord structures and what have you. And that kind of helps you, but you kind of plateau because there's only so many resources that you have. So back then you had like guitar magazines that would have articles, and maybe somebody would break down a little bit of what they were doing, and maybe you'd have some tab. Big fan of tab here. I hate tablature. I can't stand it. I find it to be extremely cumbersome. You might have had like some little cassettes that you put in and, here's this lick fast, here's this lick slow, which we talked about recently, I guess. And maybe that would have some accompanying tab with it. But it was still very cumbersome to learn. And then I don't know how it was for you, but if I would try to learn someone else's music when I'm kind of on my own, I was limited to like a boom box as it was. So here you were with your cassette player with the two speakers and a couple of knobs on it and treble bass and balance and volume. Well, my boom box was a piece of garbage, had been beat up quite a bit. And in order for it to play back in stereo, I had to kind of shim kind of like a piece of cardboard that was bent over under the volume knob, and that way it would be in stereo, and because it would just like one speaker was going out or would go out because the potentiometer was kind of messed up. So that was kind of a nightmare. And so in order to learn something back then for me on a cassette player, we didn't even have CDs at that point. I know it's hard to believe. I was listening to Dio's Holy Diver album and just eating it up, and I wanted to learn everything on it. And so if you wanted to learn like, the solo for Rainbow in the Dark, it was like play, stop, rewind, stop, play, stop, rewind. Play, stop, rewind, play, stop, whatever, over and over and over. Then you rewind too far and then you have to stop, go forward. It was absolutely maddening, over and over and over and over and over again. And I don't really have that good of an ear anyway. I really don't. And it was just an extremely cumbersome process to try to learn. There's this one buddy of mine, when Yngwie came out, you're listening to that and you're like, I don't even know where to begin. It just sounds kind of crazy. So he had a videotape. Actually, it was a laser disc, but I think he moved it to VHS of Yngwie's concert in Japan, 1985. And then you could kind of see what he was doing, but it was just going by so fast that it was really hard to pick up on. And so what he did was he attached somehow, wired a potentiometer or a volume knob into his turntable and would play the LP, and he could turn that potentiometer and he could actually slow down the turntable instead of, it was just he would just really slow it down, and he could pick that up. Well, I didn't have access to that type of technology back then, so it was horrible. If you had a great ear, I guess maybe you could just listen, but when Eddie came out and Yngwie came out, you just really didn't have a clue what was going on unless you could see something, if you could visualize it, or if you knew someone that was familiar with that technique and or what they were doing. So it was tough. But I think in the end, I don't know if it's a positive or a negative. Maybe it slowed down. Maybe it impeded your progress. But I know it certainly made you appreciate the end result. And there was a lot of hard work that was involved. You always have predecessors who kind of give you more and more and more to draw from. So we don't want to be cynical or sour about it. But yet you had to work very, very hard. But it seems like all of that has changed, doesn't it? Because now you have YouTube. Now you have all of these, and you've had instructional DVDs and videos and whatever for years now. And it's fantastic, and that's great, and it really helps you. But now you have so many resources, and now with everything being in the digital domain, you can, open up your 2-track editor like SoundForge and, just highlight the solo of a song, and then you can time stretch it to where you actually can slow it down, but it doesn't alter the pitch, which the trick with the potentiometer on the turntable altered the pitch. But now you can time stretch out this 20-second solo to 3 minutes. And granted, it sounds a little warbly, but it doesn't change the pitch. It just slows it down. And that makes stuff very easy to learn. Now, I don't begrudge anybody for that, because I would have loved, I guess, to have had that when I was learning. But I think there's perhaps maybe some unforeseen consequences that may happen as a result of having so much access. And again, I don't want this to sound like I'm just bitter, and we'll get to that in a minute about my personal potential bitterness concerning how people can learn so fast. But I think it, again, produces sometimes some negative aspects to their playing. So now you look and you have everything you want. Almost any song, any solo, not any solo, but the majority of songs, guitar work, whatever is out there, you can pull it up on YouTube or some other video platform, and you can just have some guy here it is slow, and just breaks down everything. I'll be honest with you, the last band that I was in, it was all cover music, and it was like, I wasn't going to spend the time just sitting down and listening. I just pulled up a YouTube video and watched a guy play, and he's like, here it is, you go, F, G, C, whatever, blah, 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 and learned it. And it expedited the learning process. So in that regard, or that respect, it was very nice. But foundationally, I don't know. Again, maybe I just sound like an old man who's like, young kids today just don't understand what we had to go through, uphill to school, uphill from school, in the snow or whatever. But now it seems like you have these kids, and it's like, if you've got some kid that's like, was hit by a train, and the only thing that's left is the kid's head on a platter, and he plays like, Yngwie Malmsteen. And it just kind of makes you wonder. And so they have all of these resources, and they can just learn so fast. It's amazing. This guy at work the other day is having a baby, and he brought in video of his ultrasound, the ultrasound that his wife had for the kid. Check this out. It's amazing. Isn't that amazing? And again, I don't want this to sound like sour grapes, like, hey, they have it easy, they have it easy. Again, it's not sour grapes. Thank you, Rachel, for that forecast. In today's Spotlight segment, we're going to take a look at the 2-year-old guitar phenom, Niels Larsen from Norway, who performed for a group of preschoolers today at the Hunderfossen Adventure Park in Lillehammer. Let's take a listen. Hard to believe he's only 2 years old. Interesting. But I think what happens with a lot of these players is what I've noticed, and you'll have these kids. You'll have these kids, they're like 7 years old. One of the kids is like a drummer with some, a triple bass drum kit, just killing it. Some other kid that's like 4 playing like a 41 string bass, and some other kid just ripping a guitar, and they're just little kids. And it's amazing, and I applaud them. I applaud their hard work, because there's a lot of muscle memory and training that goes into that. But also, we just hope that they appreciate that the platform that has been given them that makes it so much easier to learn. But something that I've noticed about a lot of guitar players that are out there, and even some that are popular, even mainstream bands or big YouTubers. So they can play all of these licks and riffs, and they're fast, and they have this incredible technique. But their vibrato is non-existent. And I'm going to tell you something. You can play as fast as you want, and you can have all the technique that the universe has to offer. But if you can't bend a string, and if you don't have a nice, tasty vibrato, I can't listen to it. It sounds like noise. It's just boring. It has to have fire in it, and that's where vibrato comes in. So, again, not to begrudge how people are learning now, but it seems like it's fast-tracking them on maybe scales, runs, and things like that, and all of these techniques. But it seems like vibrato is being left behind. And there's some pretty massive YouTubers out there that are like guitar players / comedians. You know who they might be. Very talented players, all types of technique. But boy, when they go to bend or the vibrato, it's sickening. It's like, dude, I can't listen to you. I would rather listen to some slow hand guy that can bend and has great feel and soul, and I guess maybe I am just getting old, as opposed to some guy who can just tear it up all over the place and he has no vibrato. I think it's horrible. And even some of these guys, it's amazing. And again, these guys that have these massive YouTube channels, and good for them. I mean, it's great. It's great for them. Instead of being advanced and having all of this technique, they're mediocre players. I mean, they can play. Some of the licks are impressive. It's like, wow, but really in the big scheme of things, they're just mediocre. But now they have a signature guitar. That blows me away. It seems like it used to be the justification for having a signature guitar was, somebody that had an impact on guitar playing, not just the industry and sales and popularity, but because of what they did on the instrument. But now you have these people that are getting signature guitars. They're just mediocre players. And oftentimes their vibrato just stinks. And I just don't get it. I think it's an insult to the craft. So that's my old man, whatever take on how things, I guess, have changed as far as learning. A lot of it's good, some of it's bad. Just if that's your journey, then, slow down a little bit. I know that sounds strange coming from me. Learn to bend. Vibrato, it's key. It is absolutely key and critical. Another thing that I think is interesting about how guitar has changed, not only in the learning, but it has changed with the teaching as well. And I'll just spend just a minute or two on this. When it used to be, if you had a guitar lesson, and I never really had formal lessons, I would just get together and jam with people. But, if you have like formal lessons, if you went to a music store and they're offering, guitar lessons, your instructor didn't look at you and say, oh, well, this is why you suck at guitar, or you're doing this wrong. And it's very condescending. I'm just going to be honest with you. For me, I don't really want to watch anybody's channel or their video if their opening statement is, this is why you suck at guitar. Well, maybe a lot of people would suck at guitar if they didn't have all of these resources to teach them all of these other things that maybe other people had to work very hard to get there. So I find that a little bit offensive. Maybe I'm just a little bit too sensitive. It's probably the case. I just don't want to be told why I suck at guitar or you're doing this wrong. I think what happens now is with people that are teaching online, some of them, not all of them, there's some fantastic teachers out there, but now you have this buffer. You have this buffer online where it kind of protects you from that one-on-one thing. And it's like social media or networking or whatever it is. And people think that they're more connected and they're actually more disconnected than they've ever been. I think it's cowardly when people want to build their platform on why you suck. So anyway, here I am, an old man, learned on a cassette player. And if I'm going to share something with someone on guitar, I'm not going to tell them that they suck. I'm going to say, just work hard and you can get it. Anyway, I hope that you got something out of this video. I guess I'm just ranting and rambling on a pet peeve of mine. But if you could, please comment, like, subscribe. Please hit the notification bell so that you can see when a new video has been uploaded. And we really appreciate you watching. And we might just do a bit of an outro, just playing a little bit on some stuff that I learned on a cassette player. Thanks.